Johannesburg in South Africa today. And yeah, so today's focus really is on showing you how to write engaging social media that drives traffic to a website, right? So I am, what I'll be focusing on today is firstly, how to write for social media. Then I'll show you how you can understand your analytics. Oh, so sorry. How you can understand your analytics, and then how to run ads on social media. Sorry, I'm just going to turn this off. My bad. Okay, so those are the three sections I'm going to cover today, and then please feel free to ask questions after each section. I'm also going to be demoing so certain aspects for each section, so Google Analytics, Facebook Insights, all of that, just so you can see exactly how to do it. So I'm not just going to tell you, I'm going to show you, and then you can also ask questions there, because I know some of them can be a bit tricky. I know I struggled quite a bit when I started with this kind of stuff. So anyway, let's dive in. Just let me know if at any point something goes wrong or you can't see anything, just interrupt me, please. All right, so what I want you to be very aware of from the very beginning is that it's very much a feedback loop. So when you're looking at social media copy, analytics, ads, it all feeds back into each other, right? So let's say you're writing social media copy, some of it will be more successful than others, and you'll be able to see that in your analytics. And the same with the type of content you're sharing. Some content like video, images will drive traffic more, and there are great ways to track that. So not only in Google Analytics, so I'm going to be going into that. And then your ads are basically where you're going to be using your best practice. So what you've learned from experimenting with your copy, with the formats you're using, what you've seen in analytics, what works for your audience and what doesn't. And you apply that in ads, and then it starts over. So maybe you learned something cool that you tried in ads that worked better, because sometimes, you know, we're running more than one tweet, for instance, in an ad campaign. Then we see some tweets are actually doing much better, even if they're on the same topic. So then you can, again, take that information, take it on, digest it, put it back into your loop. Okay, so I want you to be aware of that when you are doing this. So it's very much a feedback loop, and it all feeds back into each other. So then first up, I've got writing for social media. So I'm going to first make you aware of things before even writing anything. Just there are things that you need to be aware of. So ask yourself some questions. Firstly, and if you haven't done this already, this is a great time to do it. It can be quite a fun exercise, but what is your brand voice? So even if you're not a brand in the traditional sense, you know, like some kind of online shopping retailer or anything like that, we all have a brand. I mean, we have a logo and it has a meaning. So you do need to really think about if your brand was a person, what would it sound like? You know, what kind of language would it be using? Would it be more casual? Would it be very newsy? Would it be helpful? Would it be funny when appropriate? You know, you need to have this kind of stuff in mind. So it's a good exercise to just sit down and write it up. You know, put it in your style guide if you have one for social media. If you don't have one, great time to get that going. But it really is, you know, how do you talk to your audience? And it just needs to feel true to who you are. So, I mean, let's say at Africa Check, I would say, because we're a fact-checking organization, it's very much about fact-based first, but also we like to inject a bit of humor. We like to play around with our audiences when it's appropriate. Obviously, not every topic lends itself to that, but have fun with it. Also be very informative, and we love to be helpful. So we try to reply to everyone. So really, just see what that means for you and how you can translate it in when you're actually writing copy, because we don't want to just copy paste from an article. It's not going to make anyone click on anything. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then what are your goals? Obviously today we're talking about driving website clicks, but attached to that is, you know, increasing your engagement rate. So that's if people are liking your Facebook posts, they're retweeting you, That's also very important. That can be one of your goals. And other ones are, you know, getting your users to understand what you're posting. So it's not so much about the clicks, it's maybe just making sure they're actually understanding what you're telling them. So is there maybe a quiz you can do to follow up on that? Also, you know, just to build your brand would be another goal. You could have a like campaign or a follow campaign to get people to be more aware of your brand, right? So these are all goals. So whenever you're writing anything for social media, keep in mind, what is my goal? If you're just sharing, let's say, a news report, your goal would then be to share that information. But is there, you know, then it would also be website clicks. You want people not only to see that information, you want them to click through. So how can you get them to do that? So those are really goals you need to ask yourself before writing, you know, what do you want to achieve with this? And then obviously your target audience, so that will differ for everybody. So not only is this location, it's also an age bracket. Maybe you appeal more or want to appeal more to a younger, you know, demographic. That will completely change your style, the way you communicate on social. It could also change which platforms you use. You might not use Facebook at all, you know, because it's become a bit of an older social media platform. I mean, I'm still on it, but it just, these are things you have to keep in mind. And also, how is your audience accessing you, you know, on mobile, on desktop? For Africa Check, for instance, 80% of our website clicks are from mobile. So you want to make sure that anything you share actually looks better on mobile than it does on desktop, for instance. But I'll be going into how you can check that as well in the analytics. And then again, how to optimize your content. So I'm also going to be just giving a basic breakdown of SEO, so search engine optimization, and how to optimize your content. But I'm going to be doing that only from a content perspective. So I'm not speaking to the website's perspective, which can be quite technical because it's about how Google crawls your site and all these things that you have to add. But I'll be going into that. So in terms of optimizing, and then, yes, what are your competitors doing? So a great way to find new things to try is also to just look, well, what is an organization that does similar work to me doing? They can be in another country, it doesn't have to be the same one, but it's often a great place to start just to see. And you know what, if you're scrolling down their Facebook page, which posts have a lot of likes or a lot of comments? It's very good practice to check that as well. And I do it myself just to see, well, what's something new we can try? So it's always nice to keep an open mind and not just do the same that you've always done, right? Okay, so that's before posting. Lots, I know, but they're all very important questions. Okay, so now I'll briefly go into SEO optimization. So for a lot of you, SEO, like what is that even, right? So it's really about just organic traffic. So, you know, when you enter anything into Google, let's say you're saying, I don't know, latest news Nigeria, you'll have a list of search results that come up, right? And that's determined by your SEO. So it's the process of growing the quality and quantity of website traffic by increasing the visibility of a website or a web page to users. Okay, in other words, this means Google needs to see that your content matters, okay? So in terms of a content perspective, this means that so first off, as any type of news agency or news related, so let's say you're posting content every day, every other day, you already look really good to Google, right? Because you are posting fresh content and Google loves that. So first off, that's in your favor. But then secondly, you can also look at optimizing your static pages. Now, static pages are anything that doesn't change on your website or doesn't change often. So it could be an About Us page. It could be maybe you post really cool fact sheets or guides for how people can, you know, understand certain aspects of the world better. Or it could even just be your team page. But you can optimize those types of pages to make sure Google sees those as well and ranks them in search results. So if someone looks up Nigerian news, maybe your organization comes up first, right? Just organically, just because it looks like a good website that offers good content. The other thing you'll want to look at is Google News. So it used to be that you needed to submit your website for Google News. Google News is, yeah, I don't know if all of you are aware of it, but it's basically a news hub where Google posts any relevant news from different countries, from different organizations that you can then see. And you can actually get indexed on this, which is great because it's like, let's say you have the Google News app on your phone. You open that, and then Africa Check stuff will be there, for instance, because we're on Google News. But so you don't need to submit manually anymore, but you can still improve your profile page for Google News. And Google News counts very much in your favor for SEO, for ranking higher in results. So you can definitely go there. They have a publisher page. So I'll be sharing a resources document at the end of this presentation, and it'll be in there. You can just click on, but it lets you add your logo, you add a description for your organization. You can also tell Google which pages matter more on your website, so it'll prioritize those. And you can also determine how people see your organization on Google News. So you can actually say, well, this tab will be our latest reports, this tab will be our blogs, and it all looks very good. And again, very much in your favor. The other thing that you can do is to use keywords, right? So keywords are an abstract way of saying, use words that your users are going to use to search for your content, right? So if you're writing on a specific topic, think about what will my audience use to find this, and make sure you use it a few times in that article. So that's the general practice for that. It might not always work out because, you know, we have copywriters who want to make writing look a bit differently, but it's always good, again, to make sure it does include that, because Google will look at that and be like, oh, does it include these keywords? Cool, I can show that to this user. That's basically how it works. All right. So another one that you can do, especially if you're a WordPress website, which I know a few of the partners do, there's a very cool free plugin called Yoast. It's Yoast SEO plugin. I linked it in the resources as well. But you can use that to very easily optimize any report. So I'm just going to quickly show you what that looks like. So this is the backend on one of the articles we have on our WordPress website. And here is the Yoast SEO plugin. And what you can do, so you can change the headline, for instance. So especially for social media, that'll be amazing, because often we have longer headlines, because on desktop they look great, but then on social media they cut off. So you can edit the snippet. You can put in a completely different title, you know. This one's already quite short, but you can change this altogether, you know. You can also add a different meta description, which is basically a description of what this content is to Google. But it'll also show anywhere it's shared, like let's say you share an article on Facebook. That description under the headline is this meta description. So you can change that for any platform. You can go here, you can go Facebook, you can add a different description, different title, you can do it for Twitter, and this is just the free version. You can then also even add a different image, which is super useful, because sometimes you want something maybe a bit punchier, or you have an updated image. So you can do all of that with that plugin, and you can add a keyword already. So one that needs, you know, that they need to focus on. So you can do that with the not free version. You can add more or longer keywords, but it's a great place to start, right? So yes, so we were talking here. Right, sorry, I just lost my spot. Okay, so headlines, yes, meta description, keywords, and the image. Great. So that's my basic SEO from a content perspective. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me after the section on social copywriting, okay? But I hope that does help you a little bit. It can be a bit overwhelming, I find, at the beginning. The other, yes, one more thing, and I've also included this in the resources. When you're, let's say, updating your headline or your image, but the report or the article has already been published, there's a really nice way to update that, right? Because it doesn't, sometimes it can take hours or days and you just want to share it already, right? So you've got these tools, they're developer tools. So Facebook has one and it's called Facebook Debugger, right? And all you do you just put, oh, this is a bad example. Say, you just put your link in here, right? And then you say debug. And if you've updated the headline or the image, so this was last scraped in April, right? But let's say we've updated the headline, we've updated the image, you can say scrape again, and it will pull that new information. So now when you share it on Facebook or on Twitter or anywhere else, it will have that new information. This obviously I haven't changed, so it's not gonna do anything now, but that's the general gist of it. And you've got the same for Twitter, and it's called the validator. Right, so you do the same thing. Facebook is a better place to start. It syncs it up much quicker. All right, but I've put the link to that in the resources too, just so you can see. Okay, so we're going to move on now to actual writing for social. Okay, so I've got a few, again, focus areas that I think are important and that I use. So the first would be your voice. So we looked at brand voice earlier. But also when you're actually writing copy, you want to just pull the reader in, right? So set the scene, give some context, you know, why should they even be reading this? You know, like don't just assume they know what you're talking about, because often I see people posting a link and they assume people see the link first, so they just say something, you know, out of the report or a random quote. And sometimes you have to keep in mind that you're scrolling down, right? So you're going to see the copy first. So that's the first place you need to hook the reader. So start with, you know, be direct, set the scene, use a statement or a question. So you're like, you know, what do you know about, I don't know, Nigerian media? It could be any, like just a question based on what you're posting, right? Or a statement like, have you heard? Or breaking news, or, you know, things like that to really catch the reader. It doesn't always have to be quite in that format. So again, just keep in mind that these are just guidelines. You can pick and choose. I mean, you will not always use everything. So it's just a guide of stuff to include, but definitely call to action. Very important. Always put verbs in your copy. You want the reader to do something. You don't want them to just say, oh, okay, latest update on Nigerian politics. Okay, now what? You know, put something in that says, you know, the most basic version you can use is click the link below to read more. Okay, it's basic, but it does work. Okay, but you can also just, you know, be a bit more creative, you know, read our report to see how you'll be affected. Always turn it back to the reader if you can, or, you know, go click through to our website to see some tips. Just show them what they're going to get out of clicking on this. I think it's always important to add that and just at least use some verbs to direct the reader. Yeah, so calls to action, statement or question, be direct, and set the scene. And then we've got language. So keep it simple. So I know a lot of the time we all use a bit of jargon also in our reports, and you can, especially if you're always in that world, it can be hard to step out. But on social media especially, use simple language. So don't go for fancy synonyms, don't use technical jargon, always break it down. Don't use abstract language. Break it down for any reader on any literacy level that they can understand what you're trying to say. I find that very important. And then also proofread. The number of times I see typos and grammar errors on social media is quite frightening. And I think it does put a lot of readers off, because if you think, I mean, here at Africa Check, we check a lot of scam pages and they're always full of typos. So for me, if I see anything that has anything like that, I'm like, I don't know how trustworthy these people are, because they've got grammar errors and spelling errors. So again, as part of your workflow, make sure you draft copy first. You have someone check it, because it's always good to get a second eye. So don't just post straight to social media if you can avoid it. It's always nice to have some time to just structure it. Okay, and then format is another one. You can do a lot just with capitalization or punctuation. Let's say you've got a report that looks at the verdict on a claim. Let's say you're a fact checker. You'll go like, well, this is false, but you can capitalize the whole false, and that will be eye-catching. So again, you want to find ways to draw the person's eye to your post so that they'll click through. You can do the same with emojis. So they're not only save space on Twitter, but they're also quite fun to use even on Facebook. Just to replace words or to just catch the eye. Let's say you're announcing something, or it's breaking news, or it's in a certain country. Play around with it. Just try not to just stick to the usual copy excerpt, you know. Okay, and then yeah, like I was saying, don't copy paste, please. Always, you can copy paste initially, maybe into your Google Doc where you rewrite your social media. That's how I do it. I put the general gist of an article in there, and then I think, oh, how can I rewrite this? What will be interesting to pull out to the reader, right? So do that, but don't copy paste. Also, don't cross post, please. There's nothing worse than seeing millions of hashtags that are on Instagram, on Facebook. It's just not cool. Okay, and it also makes you look a little bit lazy. So really just put the effort in. Every platform is different. You know, you can't share the same. I mean, again, you know, links don't work on Instagram. So you don't want to cross post. It doesn't look good. Okay, and then don't exaggerate, don't sensationalize. I don't think it's in any of our business to do that. So again, just be you, but make it interesting and speak to your readers, engage them, show them why they want to read what you're posting. Okay. So that's there. And then, yes, I just want to go onto the platform. So in terms of platforms, you be slightly different on each one in terms of how you write. Okay. So obviously Facebook, you've got a bit more room than Twitter. So you can get away with longer copy. Obviously, always try to keep it as short as you can, but keeping in mind what you want to achieve. So your call to action, setting the context, you know, engaging your reader. So if you can do all that in the shortest amount, because again, there might be lots of room, but Facebook still cuts off. So you want to make sure you at least have a question or a call to action before that, right? Because you know on mobile, like there'll be those 3 little dots, and then you have to say, read more. So you don't want everything to be under that if you can avoid it. Again, optimize your link cards for Facebook. Don't just share the link with an image. It's been shown that that is not as effective. Always make sure you share a link that has an image, and you can do that like I showed you earlier with the Yoast SEO plugin. You can make sure there's an image there, because again, sometimes maybe we don't have a featured image for an article, or you know, social media isn't pulling a certain image, you can add it there. That's really the last resort, is to post it with a picture, unless it's obviously an infographic or something like that. That's different. And then experiment, you know, try some video, try some graphics. I've added some free tools on the resources page that I'm going to share. One of the really cool ones is Lumen 5. So I use that quite often. It's a very easy video tool and it's free. So you can import your content and it'll automatically create a video based on the text. You can also pick and choose what you want to do. And they now have voiceover, which is really cool. So you can even do a voiceover over the video and not just rely on the text. I'm going to experiment with that next. But there's also Canva. It's one of the free picture tools. You can create all kinds of different graphics. Data wrapper, you can create tables. Maybe you've got some data in your report. So it's really about diversifying your content. And Facebook is great for that. Definitely, so is Twitter. So that's Facebook. Then Instagram, just keep in mind, it is mainly about pretty pictures. So try not to be too text heavy if you are posting pictures. Try to focus on the image, and then obviously you can use the text, right, to really write about what you're saying, but try not to put everything in an image. It can also be a bit overwhelming on Instagram. Use your hashtags, it's the same as on Twitter. And then a really cool feature is, again, so like I mentioned, links don't work, right? So if you post a link in Instagram in the text that you're posting, it's not clickable. But you can use something called link in bio. There's different providers for this. I've shared in my resources doc something that will help you. But basically what it is, you put a link in your bio from this platform. So in your profile biography, right? And then if any user clicks on that, you've got a set of links there already. So let's say one is your about page, one is your latest article, one is the article from last week, or a campaign you're running. And they're all really cool because you can create these really visual tiles almost, and people can click on them. So in any post where you're wanting to send someone to a link, you can just say click link in bio and make sure that that is the most recent one in that selection. So that's quite a fun one. And then use your stories. You know, you can cross-post those to Facebook. That works quite well. Okay, so you can share to both at the same time. Those are great for updates, or if you're trying to show people how to do something, or even just, you know, sharing your team. Maybe you're doing something cool. So again, just trying different things. No one's going to hate you if it doesn't look great. So I think it's always nice to just try something out. And then Twitter, short and to the point. Keep it as short as possible, but keeping in mind, you know, your brand voice, your call to action, link, all of that. Use your hashtags and the handles. So what's really great with Twitter is that people also search according to hashtags. So it's not just that if you use a popular hashtag that you appear in those results if you're the latest one. But people also search for that. People have hashtags in their profiles. And also with the @ handle, if you're like, let's say you've done a report on a minister or a certain department or a TV personality and they're on Twitter, you can tag them. Because if anyone searches for those accounts, they also see your tweets. So it increases your reach, increases your odds of getting clicked on, which is great. And it also increases engagement because more people see it. And it's also, again, it's a more visual thing. If you have a handle, it sticks out, so do the hashtags. So those are quite good to use. And then you can also, you know, do polls on Twitter if you haven't tried that yet. It's quite a fun thing. Most people love doing it. They just love to click. It's like, oh, that's me. So those are fun. Maybe there's a cool way you can try to do it. I mean, right now we're doing it quite often for our info finder tool. But I mean, you could even just ask your audience's opinion, like, which graphic do you prefer for this? Or which story did you think was better? Or what did you learn from this story? And just do a quiz based on that. Again, on Twitter, there might be limited space, but there are always tricks to get around that. So there's threads and quotes. So let's say you want to go into more context about something, don't just do the one tweet, maybe thread it. So that means to reply to yourself, right, with more content. You can do that, it's quite fun. And then quoting, maybe you're quoting someone and then you're like, oh, these people reported this, but that's actually wrong. And then you link your own article. It's also, again, a nice way to diversify content and do something different. So that's just a short thing on what to be aware of with different platforms when you are writing copy for it. Okay, so I think I'm going to just take some questions on the copywriting aspect if you have any, and then I'll go on to understanding analytics.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you have questions, you can put it in the chat, or if you like to ask, you can just put it in the chat and then you can unmute your video and just speak. I think, Laura, for me,
yeah,
while you were doing your presentation, I was thinking, you know, the thing about writing copies for Facebook, for Instagram and Twitter. But for some fact-checking organization, especially for some of our partners, the reality is you have a small social media team. Like you have a small team, maybe it's just a person or two person that is involved, that is in charge of engagement. And sometimes, you know, the time and the resources is not really there. So what should be the focus, especially for those who are looking to increase their engagement in terms of their social media following and direct traffic to their website? What would you advise should be the focus out of this 3 major social media platforms? Should they focus on Facebook or focus more on Twitter because, you know, you have limited ends and you're trying to make the best with the available resources?
So I think it really depends. So where is your audience, right? So for us, yeah, I think that would tie into your analytics. So you would first, I think the best bet would be to look, where am I getting my most clicks from? So you can go to analytics. I'll show you how to do that just now and see, is it coming from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? And then you can focus on one of those, right? And then maybe one other. So for us, in the beginning, our main one was, and it actually still is, Facebook, because we have a lot of, so again, it depends on the demographic, but most of our users are like between 30 and 50, and most of those people love Facebook. And also Facebook, I would say Facebook is a good place to start, just because most people also in Africa use that more than they do Twitter. And it's an easier platform to reach people in terms of ads. Like Twitter can be a lot costlier, I find, at least. It depends on the country, but I think, yeah, again, you also want to look at, you know, what, in terms of the content, again, where you are will matter, because maybe people are, you know, using limited data. That also plays into it. So you can't do too much video because maybe they can't actually view it. So that's also something to keep in mind. But I think, yeah, do focus on one platform that you know you get the most click through from, and then do it amazing. So optimize your copy, have those calls to action, use visuals where you can. I mean, even now, I'm the only social media person technically at Africa Tech. I don't have a team. It's just me. So it can be done, but I think there are lots of awesome free tools and you should make use of them. I use them all the time and they really make it so much easier. Because you can do a lot with very little if you have access to internet. But really, I think, yeah, just be a bit more playful to drive engagement and just get back to people. They love that. Like, even if you just engage with them in the comments or you reply to the inbox messages, I would say do all of that and optimize your page. So if you're looking at Facebook, make sure you've got a nice cover picture, you know, and that it looks good on mobile and on desktop. Have a button for people to, I don't know, sign up to your newsletter if you have one, contact you on WhatsApp, send you a message, make sure your about section on your page is clear, so that all of that is just there, right? So that's where I would start, really.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Laura. Then you have another question from Ogenia BP in the chat. And it's like, thank you, Laura, for the wonderful presentation. For me, I would love you to really dig deep on how to optimize static pages on a website and what is the advantage.
Okay, so for static pages, it's really just, yeah, you want to rank for keywords. So firstly in the copy, so it really, you need to make sure you first have to pick the keyword. Okay, so it depends on which static page we're looking at, but let's say I'm talking from Africa Chick's perspective and we're talking about fact checking in Africa. Okay, so I would make sure that fact checking in Africa or fact checking Africa appears multiple times in the copy, also in the headlines. If you've got sub headlines, you would say, you know, oh, well, let's say we're the first independent fact-checking organization in Africa, for instance. Then if you have images, you would need to do the same there. So there's something called alt tags. So if you're on the image itself, you would add that keyword there too. Okay, because again, it increases your SEO value, because Google, you know, looks at that page and we're like, oh, there's fact-checking in Africa, there's fact-checking in Africa. Also, it has to be a certain length. So very short. This is why I don't know if any of you have ever looked at a recipe online, but it feels like you have to scroll for years to get to the actual recipe, because before that, the blogger will have put the whole life story of that recipe. And that's because they want to rank higher. And they're putting the keywords in all of that. Okay. So that's an SEO trick. And then really, you would also want to just talk to your website people if you have them. Maybe you're the website person, but you just have to make it as easy as possible for Google to see your site, you know, and to crawl it. So there's certain tips and tricks for that. I'm happy to like engage more on that offline as well, if anyone wants to. But it's just, you know, you want to just make it easy for them to find your website. But static content, again, it doesn't have to just be your about page. Maybe just produce more static content as well. mean, at Africa Check, for instance, we do a lot of guides and fact sheets, and these age very well. So it's this evergreen content. So 2-3 years from now, someone will still be accessing that, and Google will see, oh wow, they've still got valuable information. So we'll rank Africa Check higher. But again, you must keep in mind, you're also competing with a lot of people. Like if you're a fact checker, I would definitely say use Google Claim Review. It really helps a lot. So if you're not aware of that, it's basically a code snippet that Google will see on your website that this is a fact check specifically, and then you already get ranked higher in the results, and it'll have the verdict and the false and this and that. So that's another way to do it. I'm happy to talk more about that offline as well, if anyone wants to. But it's basically just make your website like content helpful, and Google will do the rest. That's really, yeah, the advice that I can give.
Okay. Yeah, do we still have any question before
I have a question. Can I take the mic?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Thank you, Laura, for that presentation. My question is on the balance between SEO and newsroom style. For instance, you mentioned that we have to be conscious of the fact that we are writing for an audience, and then do what, as much as possible, push out the content that we feel that the audience would be willing to read. So my question is, how do we balance the expectations of how to draw the attention of audience on the social media and some in-house rules, ethics, and styles of the newsroom? Take, for instance, the newsroom practice will say, if you're writing an abbreviation, you have to write the full word. But the social media optimization would rather prefer you just put FIFA instead of Federation of International Football Association. So the answer I've gotten to this most of the time is that no matter what the case may be, your content also has to be audience driven. So what I would like to ask is, from your experience, I would like you to share some experience on how you balanced these two, the expectations of social media and the ethics and styles of the newsroom.
So it's very tricky. I know exactly where you're coming from, because I don't write the reports on our website. So I can only do so much. If I could do more, I would. So I understand. So that's where I think where it comes in, where you use, let's say, an SEO plugin to help you. So at least for social media, it's optimized and there's a keyword. I get that. So, but again, like what I was saying is, if you're a news website, you're already indexed quite well, just because you're publishing good, regular content, right? Yeah. So that's already in your favor. So you're not struggling to get indexed because you don't have enough content. So then I would say, try to maybe have some more evergreen content, or just try and get your static pages optimized. If you find you're not ranking, if you're looking for a search term that's related to you and you're not appearing in the first page or the second page, you know, maybe there's something you can do on those pages. And again, make sure you're on Google News and that your profile is filled out. So you have a description, category, your logo's there. You've indicated to Google which sections are good for it to crawl. So I get it. It is tricky because I can't touch a report to publish. I can't change the headlines. So I always just pray that, you know, they're including good keywords. Yeah. But again, for us specifically, what comes in there is the Google Claim Review. That helps us, but obviously doesn't apply beyond fact checking. But I would then just say, you know, try and optimize as much as you can. There's not much you can do beyond that, I know.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we can move to the next session now.
Okay. All right, so analytics. So the first one I'm going to go into, and I'm just going to focus what I think is important for, especially from a social media and a content writing perspective. So firstly, your user, you can get so much information on who visits your site here. So I'm going to dive into that. Then I'm going to look at content. So which landing pages rank highest and what you can learn from that too. Keywords, so that'll go back to the SEO and data, the ads, you know, what keywords are people using and that land them on your site. You can see that on Google Analytics. Then referrals are going to be anything, wherever people are coming from, you know, to your site. So are they coming from Twitter? Is it a certain newsletter that's going out that is sending a lot of people to you? Is it just from Google search results? You're going to see that in referrals. Then customization. So there's a really cool feature. So, you know, you can just do reports on Google Analytics. You can just export, for instance, a certain section. But there's a whole hub of customized dashboards, which are essentially views of your analytics. So maybe one will be SEO focused, or one will just be about social media. You can import those. So I've got a link to that in my resources as well. I find them very useful. So you can just pick ones that might work for you, because then you don't have to do all the hard work of clicking through every tab on Google Analytics and finding these things. And then I also want to just show you a nifty tool called the Campaign URL Builder. It's specifically useful if, for instance, you want to track, let's say you've shared a video to Facebook and you want to track that specific link that you shared with that video on Facebook. How many website clicks is it getting? You can do that here, because it'll let you create a custom link and that'll show you exactly who's visiting. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go into the analytics. I'm using a demo version here, so just bear with me. It's not going to be anything about Africa Check at this stage, but basically first you want to start. So here's your tabs, okay, and these are all different areas of your analytics. So the first one I want to show you. So first off, if you are in analytics, you know, you just want to go to the views section, okay, that's where you get all this data. So audience, and then you want to find out stuff about your audience. So demographics is useful because that'll show you the age. Maybe the gender matters to you. I don't know, not so much for us, but age is interesting because again, it might change how you approach, how you write. So if you click on that, you can see the age brackets. So most ages in this case are coming from 25 to 34, most of the click-throughs. Okay, so here you can see, and it breaks it down. Bounce rate is also important. If you don't know about it, basically you want a low one. I mean, these guys are doing pretty well. Ours aren't that low. It means basically, if someone lands on your page, if they leave immediately, it means you've got a high bounce rate. But if they stay a bit longer, maybe they click through to something else, which is what you want, right? You want more click-throughs, then you'll have a lower bounce rate. So that's also an interesting one to look at. And then you've also got your location. So let's say you're working in multiple countries. This is also quite good information. Right, so then you can see, oh, most of the traffic here comes from the United States. Interesting. Again, will change the way you write on social maybe, okay? Or maybe you've got a country you didn't think was visiting you, and now you can think, oh, actually, should do something more centered towards them now and again. That could be something. And then what I touched on earlier, so you can click here on mobile and see how are people accessing your site. Okay, this is very important. So in this case, it's desktop, but like I was saying at Africa Check, predominantly mobile, which means anything you share should be easy to read on a mobile screen. So maybe also check how your copy looks, you know, and then think, oh, it's probably too long. So going forward, we'll make it a bit shorter. Or maybe this image doesn't look good at all. You know, it might look good on desktop, but on Twitter, on my phone, not so much. Okay, so that's also important to consider. Then we have behavior. So that's where you'll find the content stuff. Okay, so that's really how are users behaving on your site. So in this case, what I like to do, I like to either go, to site content, and then landing pages and content drill down. Cool. So content drill down I like because So in this case, it's not showing it that well, but what this means, it'll basically be your different website sections. So this could be latest reports, this is maybe blogs, this is more shorter news items, and then you can actually click in, and then you can see under that section which content rates highest. Okay, so that's useful. And then the landing pages is literally which was your highest content during this time frame. So there you can change your time frame up here. You can see, okay, in this case it's home. That's for a lot of people because maybe they've got a lot of organic traffic and people just go straight to their homepage. Okay, but then here you would be able to see in that certain time frame, I've got the most clicks, you know. So you can see what type of content is working for your audience. What's also interesting then is to see, you know, this is a very useful, I don't know if you can see my mouse, probably, yeah. The secondary dimension, it's very useful on analytics, which means you can add any other stat that you want here. So what this means is, let's say I want to know what time people are accessing the top content. You can see that here, right? So the hour, and then it'll add that, right? So now I know, okay, this is my top landing page and it's getting access the most at 9 in the morning. But you can do that for anything. You can say, maybe you want to see from your users, which country is accessing the top content, right? You can see that here. So there's lots of things. I mean, it's really also about trying it out and playing around and seeing, oh, actually, this is a stat I want. But there's lots you can do here. So I find the secondary dimension very useful. Okay, so then the other thing you want to look at is, where is it now? So under acquisition, you can check your social media, okay, which is important for us. So you go acquisition, you go down to social, and then let's just say we want to just go to overview for now. There you can see, oh, okay, our top click-throughs are from YouTube, then Twitter. So with your question earlier, Hannah, here you would then see, okay, which social media should I follow? Like, should I focus on now? If I only have time for one, then here, if you're focused on website clicks, this is where you would see, okay, that one is probably a good bet. Then you can also see from social, there's also landing pages view, which content is getting you the most click-throughs from social, right? Which again is good. So then you can see, then you can even go back and you can say, okay, this report we did here got a lot of click-throughs and we didn't even boost it. Why? And you can see, okay, well, how did we write it? Was it just very topical, or was there something else about it that made people want to click on it? Maybe it also got indexed somewhere, you know? So I mean, maybe someone was referring to it, and I'll show you just now with referrals. So it could just be someone shared it on their website, and that's why people are clicking through to yours. So that would be in referrals. So we would go to all traffic, and then referrals, and there you can see where are you getting your traffic from. So it usually looks similar to this. So on our end, it'll usually be, you'll have the google.com first or something, because we get a lot of organic search, but then it'll be Facebook, Twitter, maybe another media partner that shares our content. We also get that quite often. So there you'll be able to see who's actually referring. And sometimes it's also a nice opportunity. Maybe someone's sharing your content quite often. You can maybe partner with them or just make sure they're getting your content sooner, anything like that. And again, here you'll be able to see maybe one of the social media channels ranks very highly. You know, maybe that's one you should focus on. But also you can track then maybe you're looking at a longer time period. Maybe one of your social media has actually dipped, you know, like maybe there's all of a sudden much less traffic, like what has changed. So it's also a great way to see if you've tried something new, or maybe you haven't changed anything, you know, if the stats are showing something different, then you can adjust that again, you know. So again, useful stuff. And then the other thing we have is the keywords that I was talking about. So Search Console here, There's a separate way to access this too, not just on Google Analytics. So you can actually go, it's like a nerdy version of Google Analytics. Like, I know this is pretty nerdy already, but Search Console is like a very just numbers focused thing, but it pulls the data from here. And there you can see, so under queries, you'll be able to see which keywords people use to reach your site organically. So without any paid anything, okay? So in this case, it was these. And that's, again, a great way to see in terms of your SEO maybe, or later for your Google ads, for instance, what keywords you should maybe use. Sometimes it might just be something topical. So if you're writing a lot of news websites, maybe that month it was a specific person's name or a certain search term that got you the traffic. But other times it could be more, you know, evergreen keywords. So like news in Nigeria or news about this, and that you could use definitely for your ads when we set them up. Okay, so that's Google Analytics. And then again, if you have any questions about this, you can ask me later. Maybe there's a certain stat you haven't been able to find. We can look at that. But I just want to show you that campaign URL builder I was talking about. So here's the link. It's also in the resources. Okay. So it looks a bit meany, but it's quite simple. So you just fill in the information. So let's say there's a certain link, right, that you want to track specifically, and you want to track from which platform it comes. Maybe it's for a certain campaign. You can do that here. Okay. So you would, and it will generate it for you. So I don't know, you just do like check.org, for instance. Campaign source would then maybe be, I don't know, where are we sharing it from? Let's just make it like Facebook, okay? And then medium could be a video. Maybe it's a certain video about, I don't know, Nigeria sickle cell burden, for instance, okay? And then your name, I guess it could just be promo videos, something you know that you'll know what it means, right? Because you're going to be able to track this in analytics. I'll show you just now. So this is the general thing that you fill out, and then it generates a link for you here. So you would copy this URL and post it with your video in this case. And then you can go back to analytics. Yep. And then you can track it here. So we're under acquisition, under campaigns, and then you can just click all campaigns or organic keywords, probably 8 keywords would be your AdWords. And then it should appear here if there are any click-throughs from that to be able to see. And again, then you can check, was it from social, or what platform was it from? So then you can use your secondary dimensions here. So because right now it's just showing for everything, right? It would show all your website traffic, but maybe you want to see for social, then you would just go and put that there. So maybe you want to add, yeah, the referral path, or let's say source medium is always a good bet. And then you'd be able to see, oh, okay, this is where it comes from. All right. So it's a very handy tool. Maybe just try it out and see if there's something very specific you want to track, or maybe even maybe you've got, I don't know, partners that want to see traffic for certain things. You can do that way. And then another way, I think, oh no, I'll go to that later. There's another cool thing you can use. Right, so that's Google Analytics. Then next we have Facebook Insights. So just want to, no. Right, so there's, no, that was the right one. Yes. Okay. So you're on your back end, right? You're going to go to Insights here. So if you're on the page manage view, there's different ways, because sometimes you're on the business side of things. There's a different view, but anyway, Insights is the place to go to for your analytics. And yeah, so the basic thing that you want to focus on here is engagement. And then, which is basically, you know, that users like or comment or react to anything you share. You want that to be quite high, and also that they're sharing your content. Then reach is how many people see your content. So that could be because other people have shared it, or just because a lot of people saw it. Maybe you boosted it. And then impressions is how often your posts were seen. And that's also quite important, because sometimes it can take a person seeing something more than once to actually take action. So that's also a good indicator that something is doing well. And this is important information for when you also want to go into your ads, because you want a post to also be doing well already, before you boost it or add it to an ad campaign, ideally. So here, if you go to posts, you can see this kind of information here. So here, I'll just move this. Here would be the engagement, right? So it would be, you can split it, right? So you've got reach, which is organic and paid. So organic being you didn't boost anything or add a campaign, paid being you did. And impressions, again, would be how often someone has seen or how often was your post seen, right? So you can do that, and that'll change things. And then reach. And then these are the click-throughs as well. So you can even do that on an individual post. You can dive deeper, and you can do the same on Twitter, right? So this one we boosted, as you can see. But when you're also, yeah. So that's a good indication. So it's always nice to see. The problem is this used to be a lot better. So for all of us, because a few years ago, Facebook changed its algorithm. So now it's a lot harder to reach people on Facebook. So even if you have a large following, right, it means nothing anymore, because people will only see your content if Facebook thinks they should see it. So often that means maybe you do a little mini boost, or you just have to be super engaging with what you're sharing, or it happens to be very topical. I mean, as you can see, it dips all the time. It used to be much easier to reach people on Facebook. So we'll go into the ads aspect of it later. But sometimes it really is easier to just boost a little, because it's very hard to reach people on Facebook sometimes. When you're still a smaller page, it can be easier, but the bigger you get, then Facebook makes you really work for it. But yeah, these are just really the stats you want to see. So let's say, oh, I'm seeing this. This is a good one. Like, it's got a good reach already. Then you want to maybe boost that one. So it definitely, you want to make sure it has at least something going for it before you boost anything. But again, I'll go into that a bit later. And then, yeah, I mean, I'll take questions on this because I know there might be other stuff you want to know, but you can dive deep on a lot of things here. So you can even go to a reach page just to see, wow, it maybe dipped a lot in between what was going on here for different dates. Maybe something was just very popular on one day. And then also with your followers, maybe you had a lot of, didn't have much growth. Is there something new you can do? Like let's say here we had a plateaus, and I was like, oh, okay, let's do a follower campaign or something. And it doesn't have to cost that much money to do either. So, it's always good to just check all of these. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it, just for the Facebook, because I know you guys will probably have questions about it anyway. Right, so just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, so really just keep an eye on all those metrics, because it will just give you an indication of what content works and what doesn't. So even with those limitations that Facebook has, if one post is just not performing at all, was it the time you posted? Maybe you posted at a really weird time when no one is on Facebook. Or, was it the content wasn't appealing? Or maybe you messed up the link or something like that. That could also be. So really check. If you're seeing really low numbers on a post you thought would do well, investigate. Okay, so that's Facebook Insights. And then we have Twitter Analytics. So really there's two levels to the analytics there. You've got the account and the tweet level. So what that means is, in the account level metrics. You've got your top tweet, your top mention, and your top follower. So top tweet obviously is the one that got the most impressions, like let's say for that time period. And that's a great way to see what works for your audience, you know, what got the most engagement, why. You can investigate, maybe do more stuff like that. I mean, sometimes it might just be because it was a very topical tweet, but other times it's also a nice indicator of what content and what style works. Maybe it was a video, maybe it was even just, you know, you tagging someone and saying, hey, this was wrong, because people love to jump on the bandwagon on Twitter. Then you've got your top mention and the top follower. I find those are both really interesting, because top mention will be when someone else shared your content and tagged you. That's a great opportunity. Maybe you can partner with them, maybe just, you know, find out how you can network better, or just, you know, do it more often. Maybe like share more stuff to them directly. Maybe they're interested in something, or they could be maybe a brand ambassador, you don't know. But it's also nice just to see when users really share your content like that. And if you're not using TweetDeck already, it's a free tool, but it's basically a great overview for Twitter, where you have got different columns. Let me just show you. I know I'm deviating just a little, but it's a great way to discover your followers and to also see who's sharing your content. Because for instance, so these are the different columns, right? But you can have a column with just your domain, and then you can see anyone who shares your content, and then you can just, you know, retweet the good ones. It's a nice way to get new followers, or to just have diversified content. You can also put keywords in there. Maybe you're tracking something. Let's say you want to share content that isn't yours. You can put a certain keyword in there, and it, or hashtag, and it'll give you anything on that. Maybe there's something new for you to retweet. So that's also quite a cool one. And then you can see all your mentions again, maybe something to retweet. This is all stuff you might miss if you're just on the normal Twitter. And it's free. Yeah. Also in the resources doc, just if you want to have a look at it. Okay, so yeah. And then, so that's the account level. And then tweet level is literally, you know, looking at individual tweets or your tweets for that month. What was the engagement rate like? So really what content speaks to your users, and your reach, again, like on Facebook, how far did it travel, you know, and what is working? And then link clicks again. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll show you. Oops. So just going to close some of these. FYI, this is how my window usually looks. It's always full of tabs. Okay, so here's the Twitter analytics view. If you haven't accessed that yet, you can just go to your Twitter profile and click more, and then you can navigate to analytics. But basically, so the home tab here, this is your account level stuff that I was talking about. So here, see, we had a mention here. So mention could also be, yeah. So this news house, they retweeted us. Sorry, they didn't retweet us, they tweeted about us in an article we wrote. And then our top tweet here was about a very topical thing from a few years ago, actually, and now because there was a bot about it. Anyway, so you can also click in and view the individual tweet activity, but this is always a nice snapshot just to see what's working. So even if you don't have much time, this is a great place to start, just to see what is working, you know, what type of content. So you also have a top media tweet. So maybe you tweeted some video, you'll be able to see which one did the best. And then it goes by month in this view, right? And then you can see your overall metrics up here. But then if you go to tweet view, you can get more granular. So there you can even just see your top tweets for that period. So here we're in the last 28 days, but you can go September or put in a range, like let's say you're writing a report, you do that there. And then on the right here is the other ones I was talking about. So your engagement rate, maybe your link clicks. This is the overall average, okay, for over the 28 days. That's here. So those are ones that will be of interest. And then again, you can see it here too. So impressions, so how often people saw your content and how many engaged with it, you'll see that. So both of those mean it's a very high engagement rate here. That's quite a good one. Yeah, so you can see that there. And then even from here, you'll be able to see, oh, maybe for the ads later, you'll be able to see, oh, this is one that would actually be great to promote because look how well it's already done, you know? And then you can also just see anything you have promoted already that will show up here. So you could see the analytics for that too. You know, maybe an ad isn't doing so well, or it is. You can see that there. So that is Twitter analytics. It's very basic, like you shouldn't have too much trouble navigating this. I think there is more. I mean, you can, no, they've removed it. So at one point you could still, they keep changing it. So you could see the demographics. There is another way to get into it, but I don't think it matters too much right now because you see a lot of this from Google Analytics already. Okay, so that's Twitter. And then the other thing I just wanted to go into, so earlier when I was talking about tracking links, another way to do it is with Bitly or any other link shortener. So Bitly, basically, you can have it for free. And then what it looks like is right here. So you can see the total clicks for a specific link we're talking. So let's say you put one of your reports into that. You can see the specific analytics for that. So the total clicks from anywhere, the location you click through from, and the top referrers. So again, was the most clicks coming from Facebook, from, I don't know, Twitter, or wherever you shared it, and then you can track it here, which is really cool, right? So this is what it usually looks like if you're not doing anything new with it, and this is in the free version. So you can see, oh, we had this many clicks, and most of them came from Facebook and in South Africa. Cool. Okay. So again, use that information how you want, but it can often help you. Also, maybe you want to track it specifically. Okay, so again, you can, even on the free version, you can change stuff. So you can edit it and you can just click this part, right? And you can add a specific tag. So maybe this could be because you want your users, again, it's a format thing. So you could have like a specific term that will appeal to them. So you could do just police violence SA, for instance, and then save it. And then whenever you share the tag, that's what it looks like. It's also great for maybe a campaign you're running, but you can change that. The only difference between that, this free version, the paid one, is that you can, on the paid one, you can change the Bitly part to your name. So it could be like Africa check / police violence, whatever. So again, this is another way to track links. And also for Twitter, especially, they look much nicer sometimes than your actual link. So it's a nice thing to do anyway. On TweetDeck, which I showed you earlier, you can also just automatically set that up. So you can integrate your Bitly account with your TweetDeck account. And whenever you tweet any link from your website, it automatically Bitlys it. So that's an option. But again, it's nice to see data on your links, right? And you can scroll through old links on the side, right? It goes back quite a bit. And then here you'll also see like an overall thing, which is, oh, most of our referrers came from Facebook from that Bitly link. So obviously if someone shares just your normal link, it won't appear here. So that's also quite useful. And then, yeah, so that's Bitly. Cool. So we're done with analytics. Anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I think you have a question on the chat by, okay, from Okbayemi earlier on. It's like, how can one set good conversions for web page and video ads in Google Ads? And then the second question, how do you set goals in Google Analytics? In Google Analysis, I think maybe that should be Google Analytics that brings good conversion. That is brackets, link clicks, and video views to your website and YouTube channel.
Sure. So I'm going to go into Google Ads in a bit, but on the goals, So
yeah, you can view the
it
question
can
in
get
the
a bit
chat.
technical. So there are guides for that online, even Google themselves. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it now though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you have anyone with any other question before we move to the next session? Okay, I think we can just proceed to the next session then.
Okay, but if you want to just get in touch with me, feel free, and I can point you to some good resources for that. It's just quite an involved process, and you need to have certain tags on your website for that to work. So you need to be able to either do that yourself or speak to whoever does your website template. That's why I'm just saying I'm not going to go into it now because it's quite an involved process with the goals. I haven't been able to do it on our website because we never had access. So, but yeah, feel free to reach out. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So running ads, that's really the next final step. When you've optimized your copy, analytics have told you what copy works, and you know who your audience is and what they really want, right? So where are my notes? Okay, so the first one I'm going to look at is Facebook ads. So there's two ways of doing this. You can go with boosting, which is essentially, so you've already posted something to your page, it's doing well, you think, oh, I'm going to put a few dollars on this, see where it goes. That's boosting. So you take an existing post and you promote it to your followers. I'm sure a lot of you are already very familiar with that. And then you've got your campaigns. So for those, you would go to your Facebook ad manager. I'm also going to show you that now. And that's really great for, you want to go just above showing your followers or new people your posts. You want to actually get new followers. So you're going to set up a whole campaign for that. Maybe you want to promote a certain button on your page. So maybe you've got a newsletter button, right? You want to just promote that to your followers or just increase awareness about your page. You can do that all there. And then again, you just need to be very aware of who you're targeting, what are the interests, so that you can maximize your money on there. Okay, and you can, with boosting especially, you can do quite a lot with very little. You don't have to go crazy with how much money you're spending. But yeah, it basically will just, a lot of the time, even I use it as just to surface a post I think our followers will be interested in, because like I said earlier, the Facebook algorithm often doesn't show it at all, even to your existing followers, which is why often you have absolutely no engagement on a post you shared, even if you've got maybe 100,000 followers. So boosting is a nice way to reach them. Okay, so in terms of boosting, you would just go over here. So let's say this is we're on a post. Let's pick one. I'm just trying to find a good example. So you want to look for something that has already some engagement. So you've got a baseline, right? Because Facebook also takes that into account when it starts boosting. So let's say here, you know, South Africans are obsessed with alcohol. So this one did quite well. If we want to boost it, we literally just go boost post, right? Okay, then it brings this up. So you want to make sure, in our case, we're looking at website traffic, right? So you want to make sure it's set to this, which is send people to your website. And then you can choose to have buttons here. So maybe you want like a learn more button. Often I do leave it away because it eats up even more space here and then your headline will cut off. So it's often better not to have a button, right? Because people will click, okay? And then you've got your audience. So this is also a very quick way to do an ad because it doesn't take more than 5 minutes. So let's say you then want to, you might have some saved audiences here already. But like what I was saying earlier, this is always a nice one to use, is people who like your page and their friends, because this is a trusted circle, slightly bigger, because now it's people who may not already like your page, but they're more receptive. So it's not like a cold boost, if you know what I mean. Like, you're already targeting people who are already interested in your content, and by extension, their friends or acquaintances on Facebook might also be interested. So this is a nice way to go, to just increase your reach and your engagement on a post. And then you can set in here even more. So you can say, okay, well, which countries are we wanting to look at? In our case, it was these. But if you're actually creating an audience, you can get a lot more granular. So we can just put test audience here. So you can choose between men and women. I wouldn't suggest it unless you are absolutely convinced you've got more women looking at your content. But we've tested this in the past and we did not see any difference. It was actually, a lot of the time, it was harder to reach women. So unless maybe you want to specifically reach women for something, you can select that. The age range, again, this will depend on what your analytics has shown you. But maybe also you want to branch out. So you maybe want to only focus on younger people. You can set that here. Again, there's the locations. And then you can, yeah, you can also exclude certain people. So maybe you don't want anyone with certain interests to see the ad. I don't know why you would, but maybe. You can also exclude people that already like your page if you're not already, you're boosting to completely new people. So you can do all of that here. And you can also, I don't know why it's not showing it now, but in the campaigns at least, you can add interests. Oh, there, yeah, you just start typing. It's a bit more straightforward in the campaigns view, but let's say you want to target people who are already interested in breaking news, for instance. Then you just select, and you can select quite a few. You can also go by profession. So maybe you want just journalists, because maybe you're running, I don't know, a campaign for them. That was not the job title one, but if you then go to the suggestions one, it'll often then, yeah, see, then you've got the broadcast journalist. So you can just play around with this. It's a nice way to just also make sure that the people you're spending your money on are actually going to be receptive to your content. So it is important to use this. Don't just say Nigeria. Definitely add an audience based on what you know about who looks at your content, so that you've got the most chance of success. Okay, so that's that. And then you're just gonna, you know, put the number of days, your budget. This will just depend on you, but it's usually for boosting, I would say like 3, 4, 5 days is plenty, because especially this will change how topical whatever you're sharing is. So if it's something that really people will only be interested in today, then just do it for like 2 days. Don't waste your money beyond that. But again, you don't need to use a lot. Like, even if you had, yeah, it depends on what currency you're in, but you don't need a lot. Rather go low first and see how much you can get done, because again, a boost is also a boost in the sense that you're getting shown to more people and then they're going to share it. So from there, you're also going to get more engagement, more click-throughs. You don't have to pay for all of the actions. Okay, so that's boosting. And then we've got the actual campaign manager. So I'm going to close this. Your general view will be this. Okay, so if you've got boosts going, they'll also show here. So you can see these up here. But then let's say you've got follower campaigns. You can set all of that up here and get a nice overview of your budget, how much has been spent, all of that, right? One suggestion I do have is always stick to a lifetime budget. It's a much easier way to control how much Facebook uses, because there's an option also to just, you know, use this much per day, or, you know, maybe use more when there's more engagement, and it can quickly run away from you. So if you've got a set budget, rather just use the lifetime budget option, but I'll show you how to do that now. So your first step will be create, and then you're going to pick, right? So We've got, yeah. Guided creation is a nice one because then you can also pick based on your goals, which we were discussing earlier. Okay, so the other one I was on was quick creation. Okay, so it's a condensed version of that view, but I would recommend this one, especially if you're new to using this view. So you're not just doing boosting anymore, you want to try new stuff, you go to this one. So here it asks you, what is your marketing objective? So in our case, what we want, right, is traffic. Okay, so we would click that. But there's others, so you can, I mean, you can also just drive engagement, so just people to get them to interact more with your post, or maybe you just want video views or brand awareness, but traffic in our case. You can also do A/B testing if you're not sure about what will work better. It basically will target different versions of your ad at different audiences, and then you can decide after that which one you want to focus your money on. It's also cool. So see here, the default is always daily budget. I would say just lifetime budget, because sometimes some days it might want to spend more because there's just more engagement. So it doesn't limit you that way. Then, yeah, I would just leave this that way. And then you can go, okay, so now you're going to do your ad set, which is, yeah. So you can have a different ads or different ad sets. So let's say, this would more apply if you're doing maybe different audiences, right? With the same ads. So maybe you have one in Nigeria, one in South Africa, you would do that on this level. But again, if you're not doing anything like that, then just carry on. Okay, so it's just traffic to your website. You can also send it to WhatsApp or Messenger, but you'll have to have that set up. So you'll have to have a WhatsApp number linked to your Facebook page, for instance. And then, yeah, you add your audience. So you can use saved audiences that you've already used for your boosting from here, but maybe you want to create a new one. So you can do that here too. And again, you can add detailed targeting like we were doing in the boosting. And then you've also got these kind of options, which they can't hurt. But sometimes, you know, maybe you're focusing on a very specific audience, don't click that. It's really, a lot of this is just testing. So sometimes you really just have to see what works for you and for your content. Also, I wouldn't worry too much about these, just stick to the suggestions. And then again, you can set, so how long you want to run something, right? And then continue. So this is where you're actually doing the creatives part. Okay, so you just make sure if you've got multiple pages that you're on your right one. And then here, yeah, again, there's stuff to play with. So single image or video is probably the easiest. Maybe you can try carousel. So that's literally, you know, a few images after each other. I see a lot of service providers, you know, using this format. So if they're offering their products or things like that, but it could work for stories. Maybe you've got different images of politicians, but again, just keep in mind that it is more data heavy. And so there's also the instant experiences, which look really cool, but again, very data heavy. I've never had much success with them because people have to click on them, then click through them. But they are very useful if you want to show maybe like an illustrated version of a guide or a story, because it's basically like almost like a visual newspaper. So you've got image and text, and you can click through. So it's also something you can maybe experiment with, but I'm just warning you, it is quite data heavy, and not, for us, it hasn't been very successful at all. So yeah, you can pick between those, and then you can add media, create a video, slideshow, all of that. And here's where you put your copy. So this on the right is your preview. It's currently set to mobile because even Facebook knows that's where most of us are accessing. But yeah, you would just, you know, start filling this out and then you see what works. The copy is also quite restricted. So in terms of, you know, it needs to be quite short. So it will cut off one thing I did forget to mention about the boosting, just make sure that whatever you're boosting, that the image in the link or the image you're boosting doesn't have a lot of text, because Facebook hates it. Then they won't promote it at all. So you often get a warning, or you'll get much lower clicks, just because Facebook says, no, we don't want any text in our images. This is not the case on Twitter. This is just for Facebook, because they want to do it that way. So just a guide from me. But yeah, so you could just fill these things out. So we just need to add some media. And again, there you can use anything that you've already posted, but you've also got access to basically Shutterstock, which is really nice because there's actually a lot of really awesome free images. So especially, let's say we're not just about website clicks in terms of you know, a specific report. Maybe we're looking at followers, right? So then maybe we want something about fake news, for instance. Oh, my internet is very slow all of a sudden. Let's say, okay, we just select this. Right, then it'll generate it for you here. You can try out lots of different images, but it's nice because you can already see, because this is on mobile view, you can see when it's going to cut off your headline and things. So again, you can do this for earlier when we were setting our objectives. You can go into brand awareness, then it would be more about a follower campaign, right? Or engagement, I think it was. So, but it all looks very similar. So just click through, try it out. You really can't, you know, get anything wrong, because Facebook will often warn you, you know, you've left out a link. So here we need to put a URL or something. But it looks really cool, and it's nice to just see what your ad will look like, right? And you can scroll through the different views too. So that's desktop, obviously bigger. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then you would just confirm it, and off your money goes. Okay. Oh, I see the time is running away with us. So I'm going to move on to the Twitter ads, which are a bit weird. I struggled with them in the beginning. I find them quite annoying. But anyway, this is the campaign view, so the ads view for Twitter. And what you want to do, so you can quick promote. I think if you're on mobile, some of ours doesn't let us do it anymore, but where you literally go on a tweet, the tweet activity, and you click promote, and you just promote that tweet, like a boost, but for Twitter. But what I'm showing you here is actual campaigns. So you could do that. We'll do it for website clicks, but you can also do it for follower campaigns. So I'll show you how you do that. Basically, create campaign. Again, you've got your list of objectives. So we want website clicks. If you want followers, you would click here, targets it differently. So you would also, again, just fill in your campaign name, followers. You would set your total budget. Again, don't do the daily one. You kind of have to do some math here if you want to do a total budget. So, you know, you have to say, well, it's going to be 5,000, let's say, but I want to do it over 5 days. So then I only want to spend this much every day. Otherwise, it won't let you continue, just FYI. In ad group, so your audience demographics, you can leave all these defaults usually. I don't ever touch this, so just put a name here. Again, you can check the age range. I wouldn't limit it too much on Twitter, because so on the right here, you can see there's an audience estimate, and the more stuff you add, the smaller it gets. And then if it gets to this gray area here, your tweet isn't going anywhere. So keep it quite basic. So put your location. So here we've got South Africa. I would stay away from this. There you can, you know, yeah, again, yeah, you have like the same way on Facebook. We've got existing audiences. You can, if you've got them from an existing campaign, you can use those here. But again, you can use keywords. But when you start doing that, it does kind of diminish see, it just goes down like crazy. You see here, you don't want that because then it says recommended here, right? So see how it works for you. Maybe it doesn't do that, but I usually don't do any of this. I might just say, use this. Yeah, maybe follower lookalikes. You'll see how it works for you. I mean, you can add a few keywords. Yeah. Really where it gets, so this is how you then add them. Okay, so organic tweets are any tweets you've already tweeted. Okay, and then promoted only ones are ones you've only created for ads, but you can also create new ones. So let's say you're only just now thinking, oh, actually, I need a different tweet for this. Maybe it's a follower campaign and not a website click one. You would just create a new tweet. Yeah, you would tweet it. It wouldn't tweet it to your profile because it says promoted only, but you'll then be able to see it when you're on this view again. Okay, just so you know. But we're going to be looking at organic ones. So ones we've already posted and we say, we already know from our analytics that we checked earlier, oh, this one is doing well, and this one is doing well, and this one. Just keep in mind when you're doing this that they're all for the same audience, right? So you've selected your tweets, and then you just go next. Okay, so we filled all this in, and then you would just launch. And then once you've done that, it just appears here. So let's say, where have we done? Yeah. So that's a campaign we've already run. But when you click all the way through, you can then see which tweets were doing well. If you see a certain one isn't getting anything, you can just switch them off here. Okay, so don't waste your money on tweets that are going nowhere. Rather put that money on the ones that are doing well. So you can do that all here. Also, if Twitter has an issue with your tweet, they might disable it. You'll be able to see it here, and then you'll think, oh, maybe I need to rephrase it, put it back in the campaign. Okay, so that's the Twitter campaigns. Yeah, and then we've got Google AdWords. So for those of you who don't know, it's basically a paid version of Google search results. So if I Google ads, this here is the ad, right? It even says right here, it's an ad, right? And it appears above the search results, but it's for the same keyword. So what you would be using it for is basically to rank higher. So let's say your SEO is wherever it is and it's not going to get better, but you want to get a bit higher in your search results. So you can use Google Ads for that. And basically you need to know which keywords you want to then target for that. Often it can be tricky because you might have a lot of competitors that are also already doing it. So you have to see how it goes, but it is nice in that you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. So you're not paying like a set amount. So if no one clicks, you don't pay, and you can control like the max on that too. So let me just show you. Okay, so this is the Google Ads view. And then you would just click. So when you've already created your profile, you would click your create campaign, and then we want, yeah, I guess that. So yeah, it depends. So you want website visits, so then you're going to select that. And then it's much the same as Twitter and Facebook. You're going to just, sorry, this is just a test one, so don't think I'm like using someone else's. But again, it's just, this is the smart campaign as well. So you would just use whichever location you want to target. So you can put in anywhere, really. I mean, it doesn't have to be, sorry, the one that you're in, or the country you're in. You set that. And this is, yeah, this is where you then add your keywords. So it even helps you. So Media. So you can then just scroll through whatever applies, you know. Maybe these, oh, cool, all the keywords, right? So it'll come up with different suggestions, obviously, whatever you're putting in. And then you actually write your ads. So here you just need to be very clear about your calls to action. What is your business? Because you also have limited space. So you've got multiple headlines to work with. You don't have to use all of them. But again, just keep in mind, this will be what it looks like, right? So this is the heading, second heading, this is the description, right? So, oops, so just optimize that. And again, you'll want to just be direct and convincing. So if someone's typed in the keyword you're ranking for, what's going to make them click on that ad? Okay, and don't try not to be spammy. So like, click this ad, like just make it look nice, you know, like as if it were in the normal search results. All right, oh, okay. I don't know, let's just do maybe your name, and then you could go, yeah, there's different approaches you can take. It's like fact checking. Let's just say, right, and then let's just say, right, and you can add another one. Click. I don't know, something like that. You obviously need to play around with what you think will work best because you only have that shot. But again, it's really great because you can rank higher for one keyword or keywords that you choose. And then you also set the link over there. So let me just go back. If you maybe want to send them to a specific page, you can just change that. So it doesn't have to be your home page. You can add a different link here. Oops. Okay. And this is where you would then set your budget. So you'll have to, you can also enter your own. Yeah. And you can always monitor it. If it goes, you know, through the roof, you can switch them off. You know, there's lots that you can do. So if it's not working for you, you can just switch them off. This is now the overview of what it'll look like if someone looks for advertising agency. They will get African Check. Okay, so that's the basic, and you can play around with this. You know, you can have multiple ads for different parts of your website, maybe just for your newsletter. But again, I think it's very useful just for people to find you. If you feel like not enough people are finding you on Google search, so on organic search, this is a great way to go around that. But again, you have to see how much budget you have, what you're willing to spend, but you can obviously edit that to your needs. Yeah, but that's Google Ads. I think, oops, yes, I think that is it. So I'm going to take questions on that section if anyone has. Let me just check the chat.
Okay, yes, we have some questions on the chat. I think if you scroll down to Ibrahim, can you read the questions or should I read it out?
No, I think I'm there. So Ziptune is asking, how do I pay for ads on Facebook and link it to my Instagram account? Accept a card and how to add the card for the type of ads that appear on the site. Oh, those ads that appear on the site, you can also do on Google Ads. They're called display ads. That's what you would be looking for. So I think on the Smart Campaign view, I can get back to you on this. There is a different view for Google Ads, but basically what you're looking for is the display ads. But feel free to message me after, and I can find it in the particular thing for you. But that's what it's called. The other question you had was, how do you pay for ads on Facebook and link it to your Instagram account? So you can link the two, right? So you would just, if you go to your Creator Studio, so that's the new back end for Facebook, which is quite nice. I've got all our pages here, and then you can integrate Instagram too, right? And you can post, which is so nice. You can post directly to Instagram from here too. But basically, yeah, you have to link them. So there's usually an option to do that in Facebook. And then you can also, you know, directly, yeah, so are you asking also then just how do you boost them? Because I know when I was not boosting, but promoting on Instagram directly, I do it from the phone, because a lot of the limitations are, yeah, you can't do it on desktop. So I don't think you can do it from this view. Let me see. So you have to go to the mobile app and do that. But there is a way, I mean, when you first click to promote something on Instagram, it will prompt you to add your card details. So then you just make sure that it's your organization's ones that you're adding. Otherwise, I'm not sure what your question is. Otherwise, just again, just get in touch with me after, and then maybe I can help you more. But yeah, you can link them on the Facebook backend, and that also again allows you to cross post. But I'm saying don't do that. But it's nice to see your Instagram on the same view. So you can also see your stats for that here. You've got insights too. Let me just get, I saw there was another question.
Yeah, there's one from Ibrahim.
So, all right, thank you, Laura, for this elaborate presentation. Since you work for AfriCheck, can you share with us the sanctions to be imposed on publishers sharing fake news on their platforms? And how can publishers get more engagement for those who can't afford to promote? So I'm not too sure. So you're talking about the third-party fact-checking program in that first section. So I actually don't know what the sanctions are. There are sanctions, but only Facebook knows them. I know that Facebook pages get informed when they're sharing false content that has been verified as false by fact checkers, and then they get steps to remedy that, which is usually includes speaking to the fact checkers directly. But obviously, and Facebook, I honestly don't know because I'm not involved in the program, but you would need to, they have a certain, process they follow where they would then completely downrank a page if it's been shown to post a lot of false content. But then obviously don't do that. Check your content before you post it. And then the other question there is, since Facebook changed their algorithm on what users get to see on their timeline, how can we get more engagement, especially, okay, so if you can't afford promoted posts. Yeah, so it's tricky. I think you just have to start, but also, you know, make sure that your website is also good, because it all links together. Because if you're prompting people, even if you're not boosting, and people find you on Facebook and they click through, they might not re-engage with you or stick around if your website is not good, or if it doesn't look great on their phones. But it is a very tricky thing. I mean, we also saw a huge drop in our numbers when that algorithm change came in. And I think it's something, you know, you need to remember that most people will come to your website. You know, the social media is also like a lot of users will just go directly to your site because they're loyal users. Social media is just another form to get your news. And so you just need to try and just, you know, try new things, reach out to your followers that you do have on there, and just create that loyalty. I mean, maybe newsletters serve you better. You know, maybe you don't have to be that active on social. It really depends. But it is something, yeah, it's because Facebook really, at the end of the day, they want it to be a personal the same as WhatsApp, right? It's more about person-to-person communication, and then you've got all these business pages coming in, and these platforms restrict that because that's not what they're about. So really, again, try to focus on engaging with your readers with whatever ways you can, and that will come back to you. But yeah, there's no fancy ways around that, unfortunately. So I don't have much more advice. So Twitter, you're asking how effective has Twitter and Facebook ads been in promoting Africa Chick content? So Facebook works the best for us. I find often Twitter is a waste of money just because you're paying a lot more for getting a lot less back. So even when we do like click campaigns, like let's say to specific tweets with specific content articles, there's a much lower return on tweets, on Twitter campaigns than Facebook. Facebook still, you know, even with the restrictions of the algorithm change and that with the ads, at least, you do actually end up reaching quite a lot of people, and it can often not go viral, but it gets shared quite profusely, and you do get really good engagement on it. So Twitter, I mainly rely on organic for Twitter. So really just engaging with our followers that we do have, you know, having some fun with them, retweeting people. It's really about just building that community. And I think one mustn't forget that at the end of the day, it's not just about click-throughs. I mean, we want them, right? But you really do need that presence and that engagement with your readers, because that will lead to the click-throughs. So it all sticks together. But yeah, from our experience, the Facebook ads are much better. If you're going to do ads, they work really well. But again, it could be different in certain countries. But I find also generally not that many people are on Twitter compared to Facebook. Facebook is massive. So your odds are much higher. Yeah, I think that's it for the chat questions.
Okay, yes, I think that is for the chat questions. Yeah, I'm just curious with, you know, with the Google ads. I've not really tried to do some ads on Google. Sometimes I think there was a campaign we ran at Africa Check back then when I was working on TrueBird, and we sort of got a lot of traction from Google. So how has it been for you? Like Google like, do you promote every story on Google ad? Is it that you just promote research-based stories?
No, so I mainly use it for static pages. So literally, we want to rank for fact checking in Africa or fact checking in South Africa, or maybe, you know, how to verify breaking news, if that's even a keyword, something like that. But I would not do it for timely content. I didn't see much response to that. I tried it, but again, it can vary. So you do have to test it. But I find, because when people are searching, you know, if you're publishing regular content, if someone is searching something you've done, more than likely you're going to come up in the organic results for that anyway. So let's say if it's like a topical thing that you've just done, but it's more because where it started is for businesses, right? For their services. So what are your services? So I would focus on that rather than things you've just created. Yeah.
Okay, then posting ads on Facebook, what would you advise? Like, do you post immediately after this story, or the social media post has been made, or you wait a little bit to see if you gain traction or you have some organic?
So we always wait about at least half a day, 2 days. But again, it's tricky because, so our content, I mean, as fact checkers, we're not too stressed about time or deadlines, because we rather focus on getting the facts right. We're not pushing the story out comes second. So again, with boosting, we have the luxury to wait. But I mean, if you are posting something that is quite topical, it should, if it's getting good engagement, it will pick up quite quickly. But I would wait till you get some kind of click through or engagement, just because again, Facebook takes that into account once it starts boosting. So it counts in your favor if a post is already doing quite well, and then you actually end up paying less. But yeah, we wait about a day or two just to see how is it doing. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes we just go for the first week because we think people want to see it. But the posts where we wait a little, they do better for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we have more questions from our participants.
I have a question. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Yes. I have a question about posting on Facebook. There was a statement you made earlier, Laura, about how even though you're able to post, I mean, Facebook has chances for more characters. There's a point at which it cuts off. So you have to click for it to show the whole text. So my question then is, do we put the CTA before the caption? Or no, I mean, which one works better? Do we put the caption and then the CTA, or the CTA before the caption, just to make people engage with the post more?
It's tricky. I think ideally you want to keep it short so that you don't have to decide. But obviously the natural progression is that the CTA is at the end, right? So it would more than likely cut off if it is too long. But I think that's why it's important also to just directly address the reader when you can, or use like an interesting statement to start your post so that their attention is already captured, so that they're more likely to click on the read more. But obviously, yes, it is tricky to add the CTA. So if you think it's more important for them to see the CTA, I would then just keep the post really short. So let's say you're posting with a video, you don't actually need to say that much. Say enough that what the video is about and why they should watch it, and then prompt them to do that. Because again, it's also not obvious that they're going to click. But again, you can even add, like, especially on Twitter, but Facebook as well, you can add maybe at the beginning just a verb, like say watch or listen, and then explain the rest. So that would be your CTA. So you can do it that way too, or even use an emoji. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any more questions before?
Oh, cool, you posted my resources. Great.
Yes, and please, you can as well share your email address, so if they would like to reach you.
Can I put it in the chat, or are you gonna?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat.
Cool. So if anyone wants to follow up on anything, or you were one of the people I said that I can share more information with, just email me here. I'm more than happy to help. Also, whenever, because it's always great to help other people to improve, and I love learning from you guys too. So I think just always keep in mind to look at other pages and see how people are doing, because often I'll even see, you know, pages with very little followers, but they've got such great engagement. So it really is just trying it out and remembering that you're talking to people on the other end. You know, it's not just like, oh, website clicks. It can get a bit much sometimes, and just remember, you know, yeah, why you're doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura.
Cool.
I think there's something. Okay, then do we have? Are we going to have your slides?
Yes, I'm going to share them with you.
Okay, I think someone wants to say something.
Yeah. Hi,
Hi,
Laura.
Yeah, I mean, very, very great presentation. Yeah, I just wanted to ask this question, so maybe there are other people that might be interested in that. What do you do in particular when your focus is on say increasing your followers on Twitter in particular? Well, say Twitter and Instagram. You know, what are the kind of thing? For instance, probably if you don't have the budget to do a campaign.
So you're asking if you don't have budget?
Yeah.
So one of the strategies is, so definitely you can compile lists. So, you know, you've got Twitter lists, maybe compile ones of people that you think will be, or let's start with organizations. Follow organizations that align with what you're doing, because often you get follow backs. And then you can also just, you know, if whenever followers retweet you or engage with your content, you can follow them because often you'll get a follow back. So when we were first starting our Twitter page, I mean, it was very small, and that's what we did. And we would just follow new people and really engage with them. So again, reply to anyone that tweets at you and try and be helpful. Retweet people. So if they're sharing your links, you retweet them. Again, make sure you're offering good content and you're being helpful. You're not just posting whenever you have something. So, you know, maybe create a few evergreen posts. So prompting people to, I don't know, send you something to check maybe, or introducing your team, or doing like a team takeover, like make it more fun. On Instagram, especially, you can do stories, and those are great because, you know, people don't have to go to your page to find this. It appears right at the top of their, when they go to Instagram, those little bubbles. So if you've just posted a story, or even if you've gone live, it's right there, top of mind. So when you're just starting out, you really want to try do that kind. You can do that on Twitter as well. You can do like live things. So maybe you've just posted a story, you could talk about it or explain how you did it. People love that sort of thing. So you just have to try harder than the bigger pages when they're still that size. And also if you don't have budget to promote, but also, yeah, use your hashtags again, so people can find you. If you're posting something that people are already searching for, but you're not using the hashtags, it makes it much harder for them to discover your content. So just make it as easy as possible. And when people visit your page, make sure they immediately know who you are, why they should follow you, make it interesting, you know, have a pinned tweet that tells more about you, or has like an interesting video you maybe want them to see. And then, you know, reach out more, like maybe you've written about someone or fact checked someone, just tweet at them directly, and like, or quote tweet, or, you know, just involve more people. That's where I would start, really. But again, it's a very organic process a lot of the time. And when you don't have the brand awareness some other brands have, it can be very hard to just climb up that mountain. But it all feeds into each other. I mean, even if you're at offline events, just share your handles everywhere, prompt people to sign up to them, you know, make it part of your, even if you've got like registrations or stuff for trainings, you can do that too. So just make them very obvious and make people want to sign up. That's what I would do.
Okay, thank you so much, Laura. I
You're
think,
welcome.
yeah, I wouldn't want us to go beyond the time because we've had people engage for 2 hours, and that is a lot.
Yeah, it was just
like,
enough.
that is a lot to ask. And thank you everybody for participating. Oh, okay, Son is asking if you can share your social media handles.
Yes, sorry, it's on the next page.
Okay, it's on the next page. Okay.
There, that's the one there.
Yeah, and the email address, I think she has shared the email
I added
address.
it on the chat, yeah.
It's on the chat. You can just scroll through and you can get that. So thank you so much, Laura. Of course, we'll be in touch with you, and I'm sure many of our participants will be in touch as well. And thank you for all our participants, our media partners, for participating, for your time. I'm sure during the course of course, we'll get in touch, and we'd like to send a survey so you can tell us the best part of the training. And if you want to learn more on any aspect, we can organize that as well. So thank you everyone for attending. I'll be in touch via email. And for those asking for Laura's email, just scroll through, you see it. She has already uploaded the email, and you can reach her for questions or if you want to follow up on anything. So thank you everyone for attending. It's good to have you here. Wishing you the best, and have a nice weekend, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Have a great one.
Yeah, goodbye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye, Hannah.
Yeah, bye, Laura.
Have a good one.